right, it's time for the first oil change for the Norden 901. I got the service light on at like 621 miles, indicating that the break-in or the run-in period was complete, and now it's time to do an oil change. So my Norden was one of the first delivered in the area, and my Husqvarna dealer didn't have the oil filter yet. So I went to a KTM dealer and purchased this model here, which is for the 890 Adventure, and it's the same one. And here's the receipt for purchasing those items, and it was a shocker to me. I never paid that much for just materials. The first step to doing the oil change is going to be to remove the skid plate lower pan on the motorcycle. Now mine already has the GV crash protection bars on it, so we'll see how easy this is. I know that we need to remove the 4 bolts up here at the front. We do not need to take off the silver covers, and then also down here at the bottom, there are a few more bolts. I think the 2 bolts at the back are what we're going to need to remove. So let's pull the 4 bolts at the front first. Yours will be silver bolts. Mine have been changed out to these black ones to mount the GV crash guards. And with the screws removed from the front, it's now time to come to underneath the pan. You'll see there's 2 screws right here, and there's 3 screws there. Don't loosen the 3 screws, just loosen the 2 screws closer to the back. So this vent hole right here, there's a little drain hose on the back side of that, and that needs to be removed before we drop the pan down. That barbed end is all that holds it in, so you just pull it out of the skid plate. Because I have the GV engine protection bars on here, crash bars, I also needed to loosen this bolt right here. That was a 12 millimeter, and just let these brackets drop down out of the way. All right, with all those bolts removed and the little vent drain hose removed, this whole section should just drop straight down. See how this slides out of the grooves on the tank? Let's go to the other side. All right, well, this is live and learn. So if you have the GV crash bars installed, be prepared to take out 4 extra bolts, because you have to take the bolt out the top on each side, and you also have to take the bracket loose so it can swing down at the front. So now with all of those loose, you can slide this entire skid plate assembly down, take it out, and set it to the side. Let's go to the other side where we'll find out how to drain the oil. Now there are 2 13 millimeter drains right here that we're going to pull loose, and over here is where the actual filter is, and that is going to be taken off with an 8 millimeter. I saw this great recommendation in another video on YouTube to go ahead and pull your oil fill plug, set that up on your workbench so you don't forget that you haven't got oil in the bike. So go ahead and remove these 2 oil drain plugs. What's going to come out with these are the screens. So you just pull that straight out. There we go. At the end of this, you can see there's a screen. I believe there's also a magnet down in here, so you want to check and clean those off. Both of these drains have got the screens on them. All right, both drain plugs with the accompanying screens came out of the bike. You don't have to worry about getting those confused. Apparently they're both exactly the same, so they can go back in either spot. Next, you'll take the 8 millimeter and loosen off this cover to the filter. So after those bolts came out, this was kind of stuck in place. You might need to get something just under the edge of it, pry it loose. I was about to video removing it finally when it fell off and into the oil pan. So clean up my mess. Okay, to pull that filter out, it's kind of loose in there. It'll move around. You just need something to grab it with. I'm gonna take these circlip pliers, stick them in here, just kind of expand outward and pull out on it. You could probably use some needle nose and just kind of press them from the inside of the handles out. It's a pretty nice long filter. You do want to change your oil filter each time you do an oil change, whereas the screens over here, they can just be cleaned and reused. Okay, you want to make sure you clean these filters out well, the little screens on here. You want to replace the oil filter in there with a new filter. Now I did note that when I pulled out the existing oil filter, it ended with a 201. So I did some internet research and found out that the 200 seems to be the replacement. The 201 wasn't available anywhere. Maybe they're putting it in Austria whenever they do the original oil filter and use it as a break-in filter. So we're gonna clean out these screens well. The little magnets in here, They do collect some little metal shavings on them. This is some of the silvery stuff that I actually got off of the magnets. So I just used a cleaner and sprayed it on mine, and I'm cleaning it off well. Okay, with the screens all cleaned up, our next step is going to be to replace these O-rings. I don't know that it's necessary every single time. Other oil change videos I've seen, they haven't always changed them out. I went ahead and purchased the O-rings when I bought the oil and filter. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace them. The oil we're gonna use is the 10W50. It is the Motorex oil that's recommended by the manufacturer. I just feel safer using the manufacturer oil and filter. All right, so the instructions do say to oil the new O-rings. So we're just gonna rub a little bit of oil around on the new O-rings before applying them. Okay, so I have all new O-rings in place. Make sure when you're putting the O-rings on, you do slide them all the way to the head there so they fall down into that groove. Put the one over here on the oil filter cover and another one on this other screen. Okay, once the oil is all drained, it's a good idea just to clean up all these mating points down here and be ready to go on with the screens that have been cleaned. Mine have the new O-rings in place. So these are just gonna slide in here. Takes a little bit of force to push them into place, and then we will torque those down to the specified torque as shown in the owner's manual. So those drain plugs and screens need to be tightened into 20 Newton meters as it shows here in the manual. All right, we're gonna reinstall the oil filter. They do recommend that you prime this, which means we're gonna pour some oil down into this hole first before we put it in place. This is the side that's gonna be facing outward. So we're just gonna fill this filter up with oil. And you want to move quickly here as the oil is gonna go through the filter and start leaking. Okay, once that filter is filled with oil, you just quickly take it up here, push it into place, and we'll put this cover in place right on here. So just install the 2 screws into the oil filter cover and torque those down to the specified amount as shown in the owner's manual. The screws that you'll tighten down on the filter cover require an 8mm wrench, and they only take 6 Newton meters of torque. With your torque wrench set to the correct value, torque those screws down. All right, same thing with the screens. You want to take your torque wrench, set it to the correct value as shown in the owner's manual, and torque these things down. All right, when it's time to refill the motor with oil, you're gonna add oil right up here on this side where the clutch lever pull is. Down here, you've got a little sight window, and you wanna make sure you fill it till it's to the middle of the sight window. When you're adding oil, you're gonna find that it takes quite a bit. The manual says it will take 2.8 liters or 3 quarts. I found that you can actually pour it in faster than it will take it, so watch that and be slow and careful as adding the oil. One cool thing about these motorcycle oil liter bottles is they do have their own little spout that pulls up on top, and then you just unscrew the cap off of it. All right, so I filled mine to the top of the red line in the sight bubble, and then we will start it up and let it circulate and then check the oil level again. As you can see, I had initially added about 2.5 liters, so I still need to put in another 0.3. Okay, after running the bike, we check and see that the oil level is in fact low. We'll give it a few minutes to make sure it drains completely down again. When checking this oil level, make sure that your bike is level. So after topping up your oil, it should look like this with the oil level about the middle of the red circle. Then reinstall your bolts at the front of the skid plate. All right, once again, install these 2 bolts at the bottom of the back of the skid plate. And finally, don't forget to connect the small hose that connects to the side of the skid plate, here where the arrow is indicating. Congratulations, you've completed your oil change. You're ready to go ride. Just keep an eye on it, make sure you don't have any leaks. Make sure to check out my next video where I'll show you how to reset the service indicator on your display. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to this channel.